start this morning with a question. And the question is, it's behind me, but where are you looking? Because do you ever look in the wrong places for things? If any of you have known me for any length of time, and if any of you have ever served on youth team here with me, you will know that I lose things all the time. I brought 2 copies of my preach this morning because I'll be honest, it wasn't a guarantee I'd still have a copy by the time I got up here. Once, I spent hours looking for my phone and it was under the loo roll in the cleaning cupboard with the door shut. And the other day, when I was about to go on the school run, I was looking everywhere for my keys. I'd only just walked in the door. I looked in all of the obvious places, like the top of the radiator. Anyone put their keys on top of the radiator? The cupboard, the drawer in the shoe cabinet. I'm looking in the kitchen services, and by now, I'm actually going to be late. And I'm still looking in all the wrong places. Now, I know myself, so I got one of those air tags. You know the things that beep? If you lose things, I recommend them because they make the items that you lose beep. And so I'm pressing the button and my keys start to beep and I still can't find them anywhere. I just cannot find them. And I'm looking upstairs and I'm looking downstairs. I'm looking in the fridge. Anyone ever put their keys in the fridge? Yeah, I'm so glad that it's not just me. Anyway, I've eventually found them after a long time. Now I'm going to be late for the school run in the random junk drawer. And don't be judging me, because I know that in your houses you've got a random junk drawer. Some of you are nodding and some of you are in denial. But you know that there is a drawer in your house where all the rubbish goes. You've got buttons in there, you've got a bit of ribbon, you've got a couple of pennies, because who uses pennies and what? You can't even buy a penny sweet anymore. But there's that drawer that everything gets thrown into. But I was looking in all of the wrong places. And I want to ask you this morning, when you need things, when you are feeling lost yourself, where are you looking? And I want to read to you today from an incredible psalm. The psalm is 121, and you can find it, but let me just give you a bit of context to this psalm. This psalm is what is known as a psalm of ascent. This was a psalm that the Jewish people would have spoken or sung over themselves as they made their way to Jerusalem for one of 3 festivals. And I'm sure that they would have been so excited as they were preparing because they were going to go and see family and friends who they hadn't seen for years. They were going to go and do business, a bit of hustle here, a bit of bustle. They would go, and apparently they used to even go and exchange currencies. What didn't go on? But primarily they were going to go and celebrate and remember what God had done for them. And so they've been preparing, I'm sure, for weeks. It didn't go away this year. How long does it take you to pack? It took me 2 hours to pack for Legoland yesterday. I cannot even imagine the preparation. But I imagine that they're all really excited and the children are probably just buddying up and getting in stuff they probably shouldn't get into, and they've got to get all the provisions ready because they're going on this incredible journey to this destination of feasting and celebration and worshiping God. But on that journey, you know it's not going to be straightforward, don't you? You know that they've not got the M25, and the M25 isn't even straightforward sometimes. They've not got the latest electric Tesla. They've got their feet and maybe a camel, a donkey. I don't know how comfortable a donkey is. This doesn't get my vote. I prefer my car. I drive a Skoda and I love it. But there's going to be worries along the way. There's going to be the physical journey. It's going to be exhausting. There's going to be the heat of the sun in the day, and it's going to be cold at nighttime. And there's going to be animals, scary ones, not like badgers, like lions and bears and things that you don't pet but you run from, although apparently you don't run from a bear. There's not only going to be that, there's going to be robbers and there's going to be bandits and there's going to be dangers along the way. And we're going to read the psalm that they would have been declaring as they were almost there. We're going to be reading the psalm that after all of the preparation and all of the excitement, but also all of the worry and all of the anxiousness and all of the things that could have gone and may have gone wrong along the way, they see their final destination. They see the hills outside Jerusalem, and they can see where they're trying to get to. So let me read to you from the Bible. Psalm 121. It says, I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming, both now and forevermore. How incredible are those words? And you know that it's not been an easy road, but they are declaring that their help comes from the Lord. So my first question today was, where are you looking? And my next question today is, where does your help come from? Because the Jewish people here, as they made their way from all over the globe to Jerusalem, were declaring that their help comes from the Lord. And it seems really obvious, doesn't it? Like, this is something that quite easily rolls off the tongue, maybe if you have been a Christian for a while. But does it really? If you're really honest, where does your help come from? Because I know that sometimes my help comes from myself. I can fix things, not physical things, that's a disaster. But I can find solutions for problems. I can build teams, I can put on an event. I can often solve things. So does my help come from God, or does my help come from myself? Or maybe for you, it's like my help actually, if I'm honest, comes from my bank balance. Because actually, I'm all right. And if something breaks, I've got enough to fix it. So I'll ask you again, where does your help really come from? Because they declared that their help comes from the Lord. You know, one translation says, "Shall I lift my eyes up to the hills? Does my help come from there?" Because as they looked up and they saw the hills in Jerusalem, they were declaring again that their help was not in the created things, but in the Creator. Their help was not in what was made, but the one who did the making. And again, it seems so easy to say, right? But where does our help actually come from? Have any of you ever seen The Proposal? Don't judge me. All right, it's a film, it's a chick flick. I know, we all love a bit of action here and a bit of mystery there, but sometimes you just need a bit of a romantic comedy. And I unashamedly do like a bit of a romantic comedy. So there is this film called The Proposal. And it gets off to an interesting start because you've got a lady called Margaret, and Margaret is a big hotshot book publisher. But she has a problem because she's about to be deported because she hasn't got the right visa. And she has an assistant, and she doesn't treat him very nicely. And they're in this meeting one day, and Margaret is about to be lovingly dismissed because she hasn't got the correct paperwork. And her assistant walks in, and she turns around and goes, "It's okay, we're getting married." And her assistant goes, "We're what?" She's like, "We're getting married." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." But he goes along with it. And they go on this crazy adventure. And I know this is wrong, okay? This is not my life advocating plan. Don't do what they did. Just need to clarify that. But they go and they have to do this whole pretending thing. And they go and visit his family in Alaska. I think it was somewhere cold. And they put on this big show because no one can know that it's actually all a sham. And they've got the immigration man who's chasing him. He's got a clipboard. And you know if he's got a clipboard, he means business. Beware of people with clipboards. I am one. And they go and they go and they're just about to get married because they've got to rush this through. She needs the visa quickly. And she sees her, I'm going to say fiancé in inverted commas because you know what I mean. And the grandmother is in the woods and she is going around a fire and she is chanting. She's got this cape on with an animal fur hood and she's doing dancing like this. So yeah, don't say I've not got moves. She's doing some crazy dancing and she's going, "Oh, Mother Earth, thank you so much." Or words to that effect. She's dancing and chanting and going around the fire and she's like, "Thank you for all you have given us." And then Margaret comes in and she's like, "I'm not really sure what's going on here." And the grandmother welcomes her down and it's like, "Come on, you must join me as we thank Mother Earth for his blessings. You're getting married. We must thank the trees and thank everything else." I don't even know. It's weird. And we look at it and we go, "That's weird." And I was watching that going, But if we're honest, do we do the same? Because it seems crazy, doesn't it, to be thanking Mother Earth for all of her blessings. And it seems crazy to be chanting round a fire and trying to drum it up. But I wonder, if I go back to my original question, where does our help come from? Whether we do the same. Because she was giving thanks and relying on created things, right? But actually, she should have been thanking the Creator. She was getting her help from Mother Earth and the leaves and the squirrels and whatever else was going on there. But we know, like the Jewish people were declaring, that actually her help should have come from the Lord. But it's so easy, isn't it? It's so easy to get distracted by created things and forget that actually our help comes from the Creator. So I want to ask you this morning, what is your default? When things are going really well, who are you thanking? When things are going not so well, where is your help coming from? Are you trying to fix it yourself? Are you on the phone to somebody else? Are you relying on your friends and your family and your bank balance and your job and your employer and all these other things, which are all great, but they are not the Creator. They are the created. So I'll ask you again, where does your help come from? You know, the next thing that I notice in this passage is the declaration that they make about who their God is. Who their God is. It says, doesn't it, that my help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. You know, as the Israelites were making their way to Jerusalem, they would have probably seen like idols. They would have probably seen places dedicated to other gods, other deities. And actually, when you do a bit of research, you realize that some of these gods and deities that other nations around Israel would have been worshipping, they did have a little nappy nap. Actually, when it came to winter, some of them did go into hibernation. You see, don't you, when Elijah is in front of the prophets of Baal, and even Elijah is going, is he asleep? Is he going to turn up? But actually, the God that we serve, the God who made the universe, is the God who holds you. The maker of heaven and earth holds you. You know, I remember one time, and I was talking to Josh Pedro. If you don't know who Josh Pedro is, he was the incredible guy on the drums. And there was this moment a few years ago, and we were coming back from youth. We'd done pack up. I was about to drop the boys home, and we were at the junction. I'm sure many of you all know it, just coming out of here, and you've got Subway in the corner, and you've got Prospects Place over on your left, and you've got the traffic lights there. So it was probably about 11 o'clock at night, and we got to this junction, and it was red, so I stopped. That's a good thing. And the lights went green, and I went to start my car, and it didn't start. Now, it could have been my driving. I'm all right with that. But for whatever reason, it didn't start, but I got myself back into neutral, back into first gear, and you know that takes a matter of seconds. And just as I was about to pull off with the boys in the car, a car ran a red light in the other direction, and across those crossroads, like whizzed, zoomed across in front of us. And I just remember, like with Josh and Daniel at the time, we just had this real moment of, wow, like, God, you see us. Because if my car had started when it should have started, that car that zoomed in front of us, well, that would have zoomed into us. And like time and time again, we see that the God who holds the entire universe in his hand holds us. Our lives are important to him. He is, as the Israelites declare, he is watching over us. He has not let us down, and he will not let us down. And time again we see it. And I could go through so many examples in the Bible, or I could tell you about that story, or I could tell you about Sam and Becca, our youth pastors, who never thought they be able to afford a house down south because they're northerners and things are cheaper up there. And they this week just got the keys to their own house. Or I could tell you about a few weeks ago when we had the moment of breakthrough. I know you guys had it here where you shared moments of breakthrough. A lady messaged and she said, please can you pray for my 3-month-old niece? She's currently on life support in intensive care, fighting for her life. She's got meningitis. And as a church, we prayed for her. And last week, her auntie came up to me and showed me a picture. And she's out of hospital. And after we prayed, she turned a corner and she's now at home now with her twin sister. Or I could tell you about the lady who I know is in Dartford who was having issues again with her visa, and God gave her an incredible job, which means that she can stay because the God who holds the universe holds you. The God who holds the universe is watching over you, and he loves you, and he is for you, and he will never leave you, and he will never forsake you. You know, we've got that song up, haven't we, that the children sung. I don't think they sing it back now, but back in the days, you know, he's got the whole world in his hands, and you've got the actions, and it's like, but actually, what incredible truth. Thanks, Alexa, I appreciate the dance moves there. But what incredible truth. He has got the whole world in his hands, and so I don't have to. That is good news, right? Because the God maker of heaven and earth, the God who created the whole universe has got you. I don't have to look after myself. I can actually look to him. You know, the self-help industry is huge now. In 2021, in the first week of January in America, 17 million self-help books were sold. And there are some great titles. One of them is Think and Grow Rich. And I've tried it, and I have not managed to think myself rich. And I've really tried. There's other incredible titles what have we got? We've got How to Talk to Anyone. I don't need that book. I'll just talk to you all. I can talk to anyone. But if you can't, there's a book for it. There's books on how to beat stress, how to be rich. Honestly, you can get a self-help book for anything, right? I'm actually reading one. It's really good. It's about forming good habits. But I've had this life's actually quite sad. So work with me here. Turns out, just by reading a self-help book, doesn't fix everything. Turns out you actually have to apply stuff. You can't just read it. I know. Who knew? Who knew that creating Atomic Habits didn't happen by just reading the book? You actually have to do something. The self-help industry is a thing. But actually, I don't need to just rely on myself. I don't need to conjure up and think myself rich and really work hard on how to talk to anyone. Although, of course, we do have a responsibility to work on ourselves, right? But actually, again, I'll say it again, the maker of heaven and earth holds you. How incredible is that? Jeremiah 10 verse 12 says, God made the earth by his power. He founded the world by his wisdom and stretched out the heavens by his understanding. How incredible is that? The maker of heaven and earth, the one who has unlimited power. I've not got that. The one who brought the whole universe into being just by speaking has got you. The one who has infinite wisdom. I could do with some of that. Infinite understanding. He is the one who holds you. So you can stop relying on yourself. You can stop relying on other people. Although, again, other people are great. Please don't hear what I'm not saying. We need friends. We need family. We need each other. We're designed to be in community. But actually, we have a greater help. The maker of heaven and earth. And so I've got another question for you. And I'm just going to warn you, I'm going to get you to respond in a bit. But I've got another question. What are you afraid of then? Because actually, if we're looking to God for our help, and if the God who holds the universe holds you, what do we need to be afraid of? You know, I read this story this week about this girl called Bethany Hamilton. You may have heard of her. There was actually a movie made about her life. She's in her 30s now, but when she was 13, she grew up in Hawaii, and it was her ambition to be a pro surfer. And when she was 13, she went out one morning with her best friend and her best friend's family. And she was going about her business. It was a normal day. And she was on her surfboard, face down, and she's paddling back towards the shore. And a 14-foot tiger shark comes and actually bites her arm off. Like, this is a true story. It sounds like a horror movie. It actually happened. She actually bites her arm off, and they get her back to the shore, and she's in hypervolemic shock, and she has lost her arm, and they're like urgently working on her. But Bethany knew Jesus. Even at the age of 13, Bethany knew where her help came from. Bethany understood that actually there was a God who looked after her. And 1 month after losing her arm, she got back on her surfboard. Like, isn't that incredible? She refused to let fear dictate what was going to happen next. She refused to let her circumstances define her dreams, because she knew that there was a God in heaven who actually was with her and would look after her. She's has been a pro surfer. Even recently, she has won championships. After 2 years after losing her arm, she won her first pro national championship. And she said this, and I feel like this is the understatement. As rough time comes my way, like when I lost my arm to a shark. But I just feel like I need a minute there, because she's like, I just lost my arm. As rough times come my way, like when I lost my arm to the shark, and as life throws challenging curveballs, I take joy in God's promises. Because you know what? There are always going to be reasons why we can't live in all that God has called us to be. And you know what? They sound reasonable. Like losing your arm to a shark, I think that's quite a good reason not to go back in the water. I think that's quite a good reason to go, maybe this isn't God's plan for my life. I've actually just lost my arm. But she refused to do that. And she has gone on to have incredible influence with young women across the globe who have been inspired by her story, where she shares Jesus. And so what are we afraid of? And I am not diminishing the fact that there are challenges. I know there are times in your life when things are tough. But there is a reason why the psalm says that he will lead us through the valley. It doesn't say to the valley. It says through the valley. Because you are going to come out the other side. So what is it that you are afraid of? You know, I had this moment the other week. I was listening to a preach, and it was pointing out again that actually for us who believe in Jesus, this life and the challenges that get thrown over at us, this is actually as bad as it gets. Because we have a hope in an eternity with Jesus, where one day there will be no more pain and there will be no more suffering, and we will spend eternity in his presence where we can praise his name. But if you don't know Jesus, this is actually as good as it gets. Like, this is as good as it gets. Like my brother, I love my brother, but my brother doesn't know Jesus. And actually, in this life, my brother's got a nice life. He just bought a £1.2 million condo in Vancouver in cash, and then proceeded to follow that up by doing a £250,000 renovation on it. Like, his life's quite nice here. He paid for my holiday, and I'm grateful. But actually, he doesn't know Jesus, and so this is as good as it gets right now for him, unless he finds Jesus, which I pray he does. But for us who know Jesus, this is actually as bad as it gets. So what are we afraid of? You know, fear wants to diminish us, doesn't it? Fear wants to stop us taking risks. Fear wants to quieten us down. Fear makes us want to shrink back. Fear makes us want to hide away in the shadows and isolate ourselves. But actually, that's not our calling. We are called, like the people of Israel did, to march towards the promises that God has for us. We are called to dream big dreams. We are called to declare God's truth over our situations. We are called to stand, not to shrink. We are called to persevere and not to quit. We are called to trust instead of worry, because the God who holds the universe holds us. So what is it that we are afraid of? Because this is as bad as it gets. And I just love this psalm. It's so powerful, isn't it? He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. He is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. He will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. What incredible, incredible truth. And so I want us to have a moment this morning, because I know that actually there are things going on in people's worlds that are tough. Like, I know that actually some of you have got real struggles going on right now. I get that, and I'm not diminishing that. But actually, let's bring those to God. Because we said right back at the beginning, where does our help come from? It comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And so I wonder if the band could come up, because we're actually going to have a moment where actually we don't just listen to God's word, but we apply it. Where we don't just hear, but we actually do. And so on your chairs, you have got a square of paper. And if you need a pen, the welcome team have got pens. If you've got a pen already, use that. But I wonder, as the band begin to play, if you could just write down on that bit of paper what it is right now that you are afraid of. What it is actually that causes you worry. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a moment where we recognize that our help comes from the Lord, that the one who created the universe holds us. And so we can bring our fears, we can bring our worries, we can bring them to him because he cares for us. So I just want you to take a minute just on your own. I want you to write on there what it is that you are afraid of. What it is that you are worried about. This isn't like, we're not going to read these out. No one's going to see these. This isn't about like sharing everything with the world. This is a moment between you and God where you can go, actually, God, this has been worrying me. This has actually been giving me sleepless nights. This has actually been making me feel sick to my stomach. But right now, I choose to look to you. Right now, I choose to put my hope in you. Right now, I choose to bring what it is that I'm afraid of, and I bring it to you, because you are the creator of all things. You are the one who spoke the stars into the sky. You are the one who knitted me together in my mother's womb, and you are able. So just have a minute. And then when you've written it down, as a symbol that we're actually giving this to God and we're not holding on to it, we're going to bring what it is that we've written forward, and we're going to bring it forward. If you're near the front, you can bring things forward. You can put it on the table here. We've got the welcome team. We've got buckets up in the balcony as well. Find a member of the welcome team. Come to the front and give what it is that you're afraid of to God, because he loves you and he cares for you. And then we're going to worship. So just one after another, come forward. Go to wherever is nearest and give God what it is that you are worried about. Band, I wonder if you can just play and sing as we do this.